Eric, you guys, I think all know me. Hopefully online people know me too. We have one game for viewer's choice, and then nothing else. So after this one game, I think what we're going to do is play online on Lichess, and then just do kind of live play with commentary. But let's get to this game first. It was from Tim.
Can I submit my game?
Yes, you can submit your game. Submit it to this email address that Ben Simon will edit in. And don't forget to send in your games, because I mean there is a game shortage at the club right now, and we do need more games to analyze. Okay, we're going to get to the game. This game is from Tim from Alabama. It was a chess.com game. As far as I can see, it was a 10-minute game. He wrote a very long message, which I'm not going to read, but if you want to maybe put it in the video, viewers can read it themselves. It was actually kind of an interesting game. There were a few interesting moments. Came from one of my favorite openings from the white side. But Tim was black, and Tim pretty much completely outplayed his opponent until the very end. He played a losing move, but then his opponent played an even worse move, and then Tim won the game. So we'll see what happens. It was king's pawn opening, knight f3, knight c6, and then one of my favorite pet lines, c3. Anyone know the name of this? Anyone? Ponziani, yeah. And I really enjoy teaching this opening to kids because it's a very easy opening to understand from white's perspective. Because if you think about it, white is just simply preparing pawn d4 just to take over the center. And that's usually one of the goals in the opening. Just get two center pawns, one on d4, one on e4. And if we look at this position from black's side, there's not too many moves to prevent pawn d4. I've seen a lot of people make the mistake of playing bishop c5, trying to control the d4 square another time. It's funny, but bishop c5 actually makes d4 stronger. White can still play it, because white has 3 defenders. And I've had this position a lot from white's perspective, where after take, white just takes over the center, gains time. This bishop has to move again. Very pleasant from early on. So if we go back, there's a few other better moves for black. One of them was played in the game, knight f6, which we'll get to. I think probably my recommendation here is to play d5 for black. I don't know if you guys have seen this before, but it takes advantage of the fact that if white takes and black takes, then white can't play knight c3. And this is one of the major drawbacks of the Ponziani. If the pawn is left on c3, the knight can't develop. And meanwhile, the queen, even though it's developed early, it can't easily be attacked. And black would have a good center from this position. So I could spend like a whole other lecture just delving into the lines after d5. I will note the best move for white is queen a4, and it gets into some interesting and sharper territory. But let's stick with what happened in the game. Black played knight f6. White went ahead, played d4. And in this position, black has 2 main moves. And usually when I teach this to students, I say that black can either capture the e4 pawn or the d4 pawn. And regardless of what move black plays, the best response for white is to push the center pawn to attack a knight. So if we look at this in real life, if knight take, the best move for white is to do what? Anyone? D5, yes. And if we look at this move, pawn take d4, best move for white is, again, push the center pawn, in this case, e-pawn, to attack the f6 knight. And the idea for white is he wants to gain space as early as possible. And both of these moves are playable for black. What happened in this game is e take d4 was played. And white failed to play the best move. White did not play e5, but rather took on d4, which is the first kind of serious mistake of the game, because he's leaving his e-pawn just undefended on e4. So real quick, if we look at the main line, if we look at what happens after e5, white actually gains time. Attacking the knight gains space. Black would have to play knight d5. And in this position, usually when I'm teaching this to students, I tell them don't take on d4, but just continue the initiative. And white has a crafty little move here, queen b3. Again, kicking the knight, and actually driving the knight out of the center. The knight has not too many options. The best option is knight b6. And then finally, white can take back. And I think this is a very pleasant position to play from the white side. Just more space with the pawns. If we notice, the knight can develop freely to c3. The bishops usually come in pretty naturally. This is a position I've had many times as white, and I usually enjoy playing. But let's go back, see what happened in the game. After white made the first mistake, black, or Tim in this case, gladly accepted the gift on e4. And for the rest of the game, black was just up a pawn. But it was a matter of converting the extra advantage. So for a good portion of these moves, we'll go a bit quicker. Knight c3 was played. I like the move Tim played here, bishop to b4, just pinning the knight to the king and getting ready to castle. White replied, bishop d2. And then black played a move here, which maybe isn't the best move, but still very fine. He went ahead, he took on c3, and then after take, it was just a trade, a lot of simplifications. If we go back, I think it would have been better to leave the bishop on b4, because it's a nice piece, it's exerting pressure, and rather than take on c3, black should take on d2. And what you're doing is you are creating some opportunity for pain. White would probably take back with the queen, and you leave your bishop here just exerting pressure. And then black is ready to castle, maybe get the rook to e8. And I think it's more pleasant for black, still up a pawn, but in this case having two bishops and just more pressure on white. But let's go back. So black kept things simple, just take. And next several moves, I'm not going to have too much commentary. Queen e7, bishop e2, castle. Very natural move, d5. Let's keep going until things get interesting. Rook e1, queen goes off the e-file. A lot of natural moves. Okay, knight g5, first kind of very aggressive move. White's threatening both this bishop and more importantly, queen take h7. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Black to move here, and don't blunder. What would you play? I think bishop f5 is extremely reasonable. Yeah, and just get the bishop out of danger, get tempo on the queen, defend h7. I will admit I forget what Tim played. But bishop f5 is probably my choice. Let's see what he played. He played g6, which maybe it looks a bit stranger. I think it's still fine, though, because the bishop is defended by the queen on g4. G6 in some cases are weakening, but in this case, it does its job, defends h7, and it's hard for white to exploit the weak dark squares. Anyway, let's keep going. Take. So more simplifications. The knight is currently hanging on g5. White retreats. And now knight e7, which is kind of a weird move. But I think the point is black wants to perhaps maneuver the knight to the king side and also solidify the queen side with a move like c6. If we notice in the previous position, this knight isn't really doing too much on c6. Kind of like a nothing piece. And this is very common, especially in more common in queen's pawn openings, when the knight's on c6 and white has this structure, pawn on d4, pawn on c3, the knight is just like dominated. So I think knight e7 is a reasonable move. Maybe another option, I don't know how good this would be. Actually, it would probably be a very bad option, but I'll just show it anyway, is knight a5. Sometimes this is possible to try and get the knight to c4, where it would be a nice outpost. But the problem here is queen b5. And this is a quadruple fork. The pawn, the other pawn, the knight, the rook. And black would be forced to lose at least a pawn here. Knight c6 would be best, and then take. Okay, so knight a5, not a great move. A decent positional idea, but tactics are clearly very important. Okay, knight e7 was played. White played c4. And we're going to keep going until the tactical moment. Any question? I hear something? No? Okay. Take here, queen takes c7, take d4, and coming up, I think this is a moment. White just played knight e5. Very aggressive move, attacking both the queen and the f7 pawn twice. So black is under pressure here. And this is a really critical moment because things are getting tactical, and it's very important for black to be precise here. So I'm going to leave it up to you guys. Black to move, what would you play in the position? Rook take e5. Anyone agree?
Yeah, looks pretty good.
So 2 votes rook take e5. Any other moves? Any other suggestions? Anyone against rook take e5?
I mean,
Sure, queen f4, very playable. But maybe general consensus still rook e5?
Maybe not. I just noticed something.
Okay, so Marler noticed something.
Yeah.
Rook take e5 is actually a losing move. Or it's a very bad move. I mean, not quite losing, but very bad. Now, what you probably noticed first with rook take e5 is the fact that rook take e5, queen take e5, knight f3 check is winning for black. And that's what Tim probably calculated, and that's what he played. He played rook take e5. Unfortunately for black, after rook take e5, white to move and find the winning move. Do you see it, Alex?
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to say it?
Sure.
Yeah.
B8 check.
Yeah, queen b8. Very instructive moment. Not immediately recapturing the rook, but first checking the king, provoking the king to move to g7 is basically the only move. And then you take the rook, and then you check. So there's no time for knight f3. I think this is really instructive because it demonstrates the whole concept of intermezzo, or in-between move, where instead of doing like an obvious recapture, you play some maybe more subtle move first, in this case queen b8 check. And it would lead to black just being up material. After king g7, take, leading to white being up material. White has exchange for a pawn, so should be great winning chances for white. So, unfortunately for Tim's opponent, he took on e5 with the queen, and then he just went on to lose. Really unfortunate. And it's the type of thing, like sometimes you'll play a game like this, and you'll go without realizing there's a tactical opportunity. And that's why it's really important to kind of go back, analyze your games, and try and figure out where the improvements were, where the missed tactics were, because that's how you're going to learn. And I think Tim gave some very long comment. I don't know where it was exactly. Maybe after queen f5. Yeah, so if we go back to this position, queen f5 is a stockfish choice. Just defend the queen, defend the f7 pawn. I think queen f4 is probably very similar. And black would be in very good shape here. Still up a pawn, having the initiative, queen safe, pawn on f7 safe, and great winning chances for black. So that was the game. After rook take e5, queen take e5, knight f3, not really much more to look at. I think, oh, the game was abandoned. That's the worst, when you're winning a game and your opponent just disconnects and then you have to wait for them to flag. I guess that happens on online sometimes. Well, thank you, Tim, for sending in your game. Only viewer's choice game for today. If you want to send in your games, this is a reminder. Send it to this email address. It'll be in the description in the video. And players like me, when we're teaching, we're very grateful to have games to go over. Makes things interesting. So I think what we're going to do now is move on to some other type of lecture, which should still be interesting for the viewers. And this is something I do actually kind of on my own. I do kind of a live stream version of it, where I'll kind of play games online with commentary, and we'll kind of talk through the plans and the position. Hopefully we'll get to play some good players. We're going to go on to Lichess. Does anyone play on Lichess? 1, 2, few people. Okay. Great site, completely free, very easy to get games.
Yes.
Okay, let's do Blitz then. Wait, is there a Blitz Arena to join? Let's try this. This is the hourly Blitz Arena. Okay, this is 5-minute chess. And we can just join this, and it should just start a game within a few seconds. And sometimes this is how I train. Like, I'll just play Blitz online, maybe try out some new openings. It's a good way to teach too. Hopefully you'll get to have some insight into my thought process while I play a game. Okay, so we're playing a 14-21. Any opening suggestions? E6. We have E6 French? Okay. And I will take opening suggestions from people. So if you have a favorite opening, let me know. Do you know what to do against C4? C4 is rare, but it's playable. The best move here is D5. And the idea is we want to create some exchanges. And if white takes, then there's going to be a weak pawn structure for white. Now, the obvious move is queen take d5. The best move is knight f6. We want the knight to come to d5. This is one of the reasons why the c4 line isn't that popular. So we'll take the pawn. And while I'm playing this, if anyone wants to like shout out a move or you have questions about something, just let me know. But I'll just continue my my play. He's attacking our knight twice. So we can move, we could capture, we could try and defend.
Captures.
We capture, we kind of fix his isolated queen's pawn.
Yeah, don't we run it from castling too?
Well, he would take towards the center. So like take. Okay, I'm gonna play my first choice, knight b6. Yeah. We move the knight, but we attack the bishop. So we're not really losing too much time. And I think what's really important in a position like this, we want to develop as quickly as possible and try and castle before he castles. And if we can do that, and ideally if we can get a rook on e8 before he castles, then it would be golden. So queen e2 actually helps us do this, because we're going to play bishop e7. And if we can castle, play rook e8, his king and queen are aligned on the e-file. And that's some potential problems for him. He's probably going to castle next move. We can't stop him, so let's just castle ourselves. So now rook e8, maybe not a huge threat. Rook e8 might actually lead to some problems or some potential tactical problems on f7. So I think we should leave the rook here for now and probably just continue developing. Let's go for bishop g4. We're still in that phase of the game. We want to get our pieces to good squares before we do anything crazy. And actually with this move, we have some idea of taking, because this queen was defending the knight and the bishop. So he plays a logical move. Let's continue developing. I'm trying to play quickly on moments which don't need too much thinking. This moment is interesting. There's a couple of options. We could retreat, or we can play the counterattacking move, knight d4. I think both moves perfectly playable. Does anyone have any preference? Knight d4, yeah, why not? Sometimes the best defense is offense. I like knight d4 because we're threatening to, if he moves his queen, we want to take, and then win the pawn. This case, we're just winning the queen. The queen's undefended. That's very pleasant. Yeah, let's take the queen. Maybe he'll resign, maybe he won't. He's probably just crying right now. Okay, that's nice. Okay, I think that was a pretty smooth game. And sometimes that's how you beat weaker players. You just wait for them to hang their queen. No offense to the weaker players out there. But yeah, there was some early initiative. Like, we actually developed quicker than him. If we go back to this position, it seemed like he was developing quicker than us. However, I think knight b6 was an important move, kicking the bishop, or at least pressuring the bishop. And then bishop g4, another important move. There's already like issues for him, because we wanted to take, he couldn't take back with queen because the bishop hangs. If he took back with pawn, his kingside would be open. And then all of a sudden, like we were developing, but we also had threats. And that's the best way to develop. Develop, make threats. win the queen. Okay, let's go back. Hopefully we get one more game before this tournament ends. These tournaments are cool because they don't wait for everyone to finish. They automatically pair you with someone else who just finished their game. But there will be some waiting here. 94 players playing in this tournament. We're already in 61st place.
So this tournament's like a free-for-all.
It's basically free-for-all, yeah. Okay. They have some algorithm. Sorry?
There's no way you're going to
I'm not going to win because I joined like way too late. Oh no, the pairings are closed. That's the problem with timing.
So is there like extra stuff for getting winning those tournaments? For do you get extra?
So you get virtual trophies. Okay. So if you take top 3, you get a virtual trophy.
Huh.
So it's some incentive. Unfortunately, okay, there's a lot of all these tournaments are ending, so I can't join them. There is a classical arena, which is 10-minute chess, which maybe I'll play one classical game and then come back to Blitz. Just want to try and play as many games as possible. So we'll join this. Some tournaments that they run are for money, actually. They're very rare, but they do happen. And they pay you in Bitcoin. It's weird. But I don't think you can become rich off of that. Okay, any suggestions other than the French?
What do you normally play?
Yeah.
I play C5. Can we just stick with that?
Let's see it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of Taimanov Sicilian. Unfortunately, we can't play Taimanov against this. This is a Smith-Morra. Anyone play Sicilian as black? Few people? Okay. This is not a Smith-Morra. This is just a dubious opening because the queen is developed too early. We're going to try and use the same strategy as last game. Just develop and make threats and try and develop quicker than white. Let's play knight f6. I don't think I've ever seen queen take d4 followed by queen d1. But I guess it's playable for white. Any suggestions here, like how to develop a few different moves for black?
G6, D6,
Yeah, I like g6. Yeah, fianchetto the bishop, resembling some sort of Sicilian dragon. We can play bishop g7. Usually I say that you should develop your king side and castle before you develop your queen side in most cases. Let's castle. I should note we're not afraid of e5 because we had knight g4. This position we definitely want to take with bishop. Whoa, he's being very aggressive. h4. He wants to kill us. h5. If he gets maybe 5 moves in a row, he can checkmate us. But h4 probably a bit dubious. Any suggestions here for black? How to meet h4? Should we play h5? Should we do something else?
Queen a5 looks good.
I really like queen a5. I'm going to play that. It's the type of move I think we can play without doing too much calculation because we're automatically pressuring the knight. We're also kind of controlling the 5th rank, so maybe discouraging h5 in some cases. And we're kind of targeting his king too. Queen d3, logical. This position, there's a few moves that stick out right away. The first move I would consider is knight to b4. I don't know if it's the best move. When you play a move like knight b4, you want to have some calculation in mind. If we play knight b4, he would have to move his queen, and he'd have to move his queen to a square which defends c2. So he would probably play queen d2. And I'm not entirely sure if there's a follow-up. And our knight might just be misplaced on b4. There's another move I'm looking at, which is very thematic for this position. It might be a sacrifice. Someone said it, I think. d5? Yeah. And I think d5 is probably the principal move here.
What about knight b4 and then d5?
Or knight b4 and then d5? That's also possible. When we play d5, we have the threat of d4. So it's probably going to transpose. He'll probably take and then we play knight b4. The line I'm looking at is d5, take d5, knight b4, queen d2, And then we just continue building up pressure, like bishop f5, attacking c2. I would think at some point we would win the pawn back on d5. Yeah, but probably knight b4 first. It shouldn't make a difference. And this is one of the ways I see a lot of like amateur players go down quickly is they won't castle quickly enough, and then their king gets exposed in the center. e5, not expected. It looks like we can take on e5. We also have bishop f5. We also have knight b4. So many delicious looking moves. I mean, why not just grab a free pawn? Take on e5. Sometimes this is where I'm weakest. Like I'll spend too long debating between all these good moves, and I should really just play one of them and not take too much time. Let's just take the free pawn. I guess maybe he wanted the d file to stay closed, but we still have a lot of pressure in the position. I should note, if he plays queen take d5, we play bishop take c3, and we win his queen. So some tactical possibilities. We're still threatening pawn d4 too. Still ideas of bishop f5. a3. So random. Okay, let's take a vote. Bishop f5 or d4? Who votes for bishop f5?
Bishop A5.
Two votes for bishop.
Okay, let's do it. Expecting queen d2. Maybe we just play both bishop f5 and then d4. His knight's going to be awkward. I'm just trying to calculate here. d5 or d4. The knight's going to go maybe to e2. Then maybe we avoid the queen trade somehow. I mean, it looks very, very pleasant for black. White's just completely passive. Whoa, b4. Okay, black to move, win a piece.
Yes. Thank you.
Take the knight? Yeah, I think we just want to make sure he has no sneaky move with his queen. But this looks like it wins a knight. Another one of these intermessos. He was expecting us to move his queen,
Jeez.
but we just take his knight.
More than a 9 actually.
Yeah, that was brutal. He was probably much worse in this position already. Like 92. 92, we would want to avoid the queen trade because his king's still in the center. So usually if your opponent's king is less safe, you want to keep queens on the board, probably queen d5. And it's so pleasant for black.
Queen B6 maybe.
Oh, queen b6 too. Yeah, queen b6 is very logical. Attack b2. Okay, that was another feel-good game. And kind of similar nature of the previous game where like he didn't develop quickly enough and then just got into trouble like very early. We didn't do anything too special in that game. Okay, let's go back to the tournament page. Oh, there's no 5-minute chess, but we could play 3-2, which is similar. I've been playing the London myself. It's one of these openings, like it's easy at like low levels to understand. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know if we can play London against d6. This bishop f4 is just, it's not a good move against d6.
No.
We're going to play a perk. We're going to play e4. So one situation where we don't play London. Okay, he's playing like a perk modern type thing. I'm going to play my my secret preparation. Let's start with bishop e2. And he resigns.
He must be watching.
It's, oh, he can't be watching. This is, I don't know what's going on. I was so excited to use my secret preparation. I guess it's going to stay secret.
For bishop e2, resign. Done.
Okay, I might as well explain like the idea behind bishop e2. It's, like, why'd you resign? 2 rating points at least. So knight f3 is most common, but bishop e2, the idea is after knight f6 to play h4 with idea quick h5. Makes things more sharp, more interesting. Okay, let's go back. Third place, not bad. Oh, this is 57 minutes. So we won't play the whole thing. We'll play until the next lecture starts.
Where do you live stream?
Twitch.
Twitch?
Yeah, I only started like a month ago, but Lee Chess features my stream on their front page.
Oh, cool.
So it's cool. You get a good amount of viewers. And this is usually what I do on the live streams. I just play games. I talk through with commentary, and then I'll interact with people in the chat too. Okay, another black game. Any suggestions? We played e6, we played c5.
Let's play C5 again. Maybe we can get through time.
Okay. Yeah, that other game wasn't really a true Sicilian. Play e6. I've noticed a lot of people are playing like anti-Sicilians these days. It's hard to get an open Sicilian. Like c3 was probably expected. Let's play d5. d3. Okay. Another kind of bizarro opening. Sometimes white plays e5, tries to transpose to a French. This position, I think we should just play the... I mean, we could trade queens immediately, or we could play a bit more, I don't know, play a bit more closed position. Let's keep queens on the board. I think it will lead to more interesting middle game.
Is there no hope of getting an advantage after trading queens?
Yeah, the issue is like he already played c3, which gives the king a nice square on c2. And he had bishop e5 with tempo. But this is looking like a very good French, because if he wants to play d4, he loses time. And if he plays that, let's continue attacking the pawn. Like 3 attackers. He has to play bishop f4. This position, there's some options. I'm going to start with h6. Idea of g5. So h4 is very natural. And then we're going to play g6. We just want one more attacker. Actually realizing maybe this wasn't the best option because he can play d4 at some point. But we'll go for it. It's still solid for black. If he does play d4, well, in this case, he... Okay, question. Can we take the pawn and not lose anything? This is interesting. If we take the pawn, he takes... Oh, then we take with bishop. This might be okay. Take d4. If he plays d4, we take with check on f3. I think it's okay. It looks risky, because there's this very annoying looking pin. But it should be... I mean, if we win a pawn, we win a pawn. That's nice. And at least I'll think here.
He could play king g2.
Whoa! King g2. King g2 is a move. I don't know what we do after that. I think we just take the bishop now. Well, he can still play king g2. He's without the bishop. Bishop take e6 was so weird. And we take with bishop. Now there's no real pin anymore. And we're just up a piece. Oh, queen take e6. I completely missed that. Someone should have stopped me. But we're still okay, right? King f8. King f8. Got a little too comfortable there. But we're still up a piece. And he shouldn't have too much play here.
He should have played.
He had rook e1 maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Rook e1.
Okay, so how do we neutralize here? Maybe queen c6? And just get the queen out of there? We defend g6. And if he wants to keep queens on the board, he has to retreat a pretty far distance. If we trade queens, we're happy. If he retreats, then we build up some, maybe some sort of attack on the king side. Yeah, let's play this. He still has rook e1. But at least e8's covered. Maybe e7 we would have to defend.
Queen e6.
Sorry?
Queen
Queen D6.
Queen d6, he takes here, keeps attacking the queen.
Yes.
I was thinking rook h7. Just making sure that there's no entry points. I mean, he could take this pawn, but we would just want to develop. Okay, now he's thinking about knight f3 and knight e5. Let's stop him. Let's play bishop g4. Also, maybe planning rook e8. And we're up a piece, and in a blitz situation like this, we just want to not allow any sort of like unnecessary initiative from the opponent. Not do anything too crazy either. Let's play rook e8. Queen d4, decent move. Can play rook e7. And the e file is actually the only open file, so by doubling up, we actually take over the file. And this is looking a lot more comfortable. I think we should go for some kill, like queen e6, and then maybe like bishop h3, queen g4 ideas. His king is pretty naked on g1. Just a matter of improving the pieces. And he's so restricted. Like his knight wants to come to e5 but can't. His rook wants to come to e1 but can't. It's these positions are really tough to play from the white side. They're just worse. Thinking here, if we play bishop h3, he plays king here, and then what? Okay, well, let's play bishop h3. King h2. Can we play queen e2 check? Probably not. Okay, let's move quickly. Let's play bishop f5. Now we want to play queen e2, somehow infiltrate. We also might want to flag him. Might be the most direct way of winning. Let's play king f7, kind of reinforcing the g6 and f6 targets. If we play queen e2 there, he has rook e2, had rook e2. That's a decent move. Let's shift the rook over. If the d file opens, we want our rook on the d file. Okay, let's take the pawn. Threatening the knight. If he takes our queen, we take with bishop, defending this pawn. Still up a piece. Oh, he dropped a knight. That's nice. Please play king g3. Knight h5 would be mate. Yes. Okay. He listened to me. Okay, that was maybe a more interesting game. Still got an advantage from pretty early on. There were some interesting points around here. Maybe this whole like h6, g6 idea wasn't the best. I was actually thinking like he should probably just play d4 here, because then our bishop is just kind of dead on g7, staring at the pawn chain. But he went into this line, and then someone suggested like a really interesting move, king g2. Let's just open this in analysis. So king g2 here, which is very very crafty. Like king g2 is a quiet move, but the whole purpose is we now can't take on f3 with check, so we can't easily resolve the pin, and white is now threatening d4 or rook e1. So anything to do here for black, or are we just losing a piece?
D4.
You said d4?
D4 to, yeah, to prevent.
Oh, d4 to prevent. d4 is interesting. d4. And then let's say rook e1. Oh, black to move here. There's a nice move.
Queen c6.
Yes, giving white a taste of his own medicine. So getting out of the pin and then pinning white, and therefore defending e5. Even though white has, it looks like white has 4 attackers, but the knight's pinned, and the queen leads the battery, so white can't win anything on e5, and black just neutralizes everything, and black's the one having initiative here. Very nice. d4, queen c6. I like it. I wonder if we would have found that.
So do you have to play pawn takes pawn after d4?
Yeah, so probably pawn take pawn best, and then take. Oh, white could win this. So then it was just a trade of pawns. And then probably black can get out of the pin, like queen b6 here. I think I would prefer black. It's still equal material, but like there's targets in white's position, like d3 is isolated and kind of weak. b2 is a target. I like this bishop. Black's ready to castle. White's setup looks just weird, like bishop on f4, bishop on h3, king on g2. Okay, that was a cool game, or cool moment. The rest of the game was just converting up a piece. Took some work, but sometimes that's what you have to do, is you have to try to just kind of push the safety button, play a bunch of safe moves, defend against all threats, restrict your opponent, and then win later in the endgame. Okay, let's go back. Try and get in a couple more games. In 7th place. There are occasionally some strong players that play on the site though. Yasser Sarawan was talking to me yesterday. Like, he's a big fan of the site, but he plays Crazy House. Huge fan of Crazy House. Okay, new game. We're playing white. Any suggestions? We'll play d4. We only had one white game, and it was like 4 moves. We'll play London. You start with bishop f4? Okay. Knight c6. This is what amateur players do against the London. It's not a great move. Kind of what I referred to earlier. We're going to play e3 here. Knight c6 is usually not good in queen's pawn openings, because it just blocks the c pawn, which usually likes to move. Let's just continue development. I should note there's one idea with knight c6, which is knight b4, but then we play knight a3, and black has no attack. Any ideas what to do here? How to develop?
I like c4 personally, because that way if they play d takes c5, d takes c4, you play bishop takes c4, so you're developing with tempo.
Yeah, I think that's very playable. Sometimes c4 might invite bishop b4 check, but then we have knight c3. I think c4 is very reasonable. I like it. And yeah, our development is knight c3, so then we get our pawn in front of the knight, so the pawn and knight work together to pressure d5. Sometimes we even have queen b3. And we also have ideas of rook c1. Oh, he said exactly what, or you said exactly what's going to happen. Bishop takes c4. Let's play knight c3. And someday, probably later in the middle game, we'll get the rook to c1, and there might be some pressure on the c-file. In the meantime, we should complete opening principles, just castle. Take with queen. Okay, he just gave up the bishop pair in a pretty open position, and we're very happy with 2 bishops. And we're actually threatening a fork in this position, which we can't do right away, but we're still threatening it. Anyone see a fork?
Queen G3.
Queen g3, yeah. Very sneaky. I think that allows it. Wait a minute. Queen g3, knight f5. And he'll probably find knight f5. Let's play e4. I like it. Still threatening the fork. Queen g3. He would play probably rook c8, and bishop h6 is met with knight g6. Okay, let's start with queen g3. Just tickle him a little bit. Rook c8 is the only move I see to defend the pawn. And we're going to start with rook b1. This is a very easy, quick blitz move, attack another target. And one of the points is if he plays b6, we play bishop a6. And we're winning, I think we're winning a pawn and maybe even the exchange, because his rook gets awkward, maybe trapped. I think he has to play knight a5, which he did. Let's play bishop d3. And his knight's a bit misplaced. Okay, he's attacking our bishop. We don't want to allow the trade knight for bishop, so we should retreat somewhere. Let's start with bishop.
Yeah.
Any suggestions?
Bishop g5,
Yeah, okay, bishop g5. I think that's reasonable.
Rook f6.
Yeah, if he plays f6, that's very weakening. That's true. Oh, he played f6. So now we retreat probably to e3. Usually f6, it weakens e6. It might weaken this, if I can draw arrows, weaken this diagonal. His knight's still very misplaced, but there's still work to do. c5, trying to exert some pressure, but I don't think it does too much. Let's play h4. Idea of h5. And there's a few different areas of the board where we can try and apply pressure. f5, that was not expected. Might be a logical move though. He wants to play f4. We should probably take. Maybe take and have the bishop return to g5. Oh, he's debating whether to take on h4. But then we take on e6. Oh, he takes on h4. I don't think this is very good for him. Very dangerous pawn. Two bishops, even more open position. His knights are very awkward. Knight f5. It's a decent move.
Queen h3.
Queen h3. I like it. Targeting the knight, targeting the pawn, maybe supporting the e6 pawn. It's a nice geometrical move. And the knight's pinned to h7. We're maybe even threatening g4 here. It's a crazy move, but I mean, why not attack a pinned piece? We're also up a pawn. Lots of things going right for white. G6, very logical. Still work to do, and not too much time. Okay, let's just play. I don't want to think too long here. Just play a quick move like rook d1. The d file might open at some point. And this is a point, we're below a minute, I just have to play quick, not blunder, maybe even try and flag him. And also, maybe most importantly, keep the initiative. So you want to continue trying to make threats. Let's take here. Now we're opening the d file, we're threatening bishop take f5, attacking the queen. Oh, he takes there. Okay, let's take here. Now we're threatening bishop take g6. Also threatening e7. He saw it. Let's take on b6. And then we'll take. Okay, we're up a lot of pawns, but it's going to come down to time. Or it's going to come down to rooks on the 7th, delivering checkmate. Rook bb7 coming next. Let's do it. If he takes on c3, we play rook g7. This is usually what you want in the endgame. If you can get both rooks on the 7th rank, it's deadly. I think I gave a whole lecture on that, pigs on the 7th. The point here is after queen take, take, we have the final capture on c3. And it's pretty much forced. So flagging is one way to lose. Oh, there's increment. I forgot there's increment. That's good to know. So we take on h7, and he's going to be forced to play queen take g7. Very bold, not resigning. Okay, let's have some fun. Promote the pawn. Okay. Okay, that was a That was an interesting game. Maybe the highest quality game so far. Like we weren't winning right from the opening. It was one of these like common sort of amateur lines with knight c6. It's kind of a hard thing to punish, but what we did, we just kind of developed normally, put the pieces on good squares, knight f3, c4. I think we got a very harmonious development. Like our pieces developed very quickly. And again, I think every single opponent that we played made the same mistake. Like they didn't develop too quickly. Like this bishop e4 move, classic example, like black should just play knight f6 here and then castle, leading to slightly better chances. Bishop e4, I mean, we got some very quick initiative, but still had to work for it. Having the center, having two bishops, it's nice, but it still takes work to convert the advantage. If we go forward, I like bishop g5, that was a nice suggestion. And then moving back, and then c5. Yeah, and at some point black just had a lot of weaknesses. If we go forward, but he played well. Like he came up with some nice defensive moves, g6 being one of them. I think this is a moment where I kind of froze up, wasn't sure quite what to do. I think rook d1 turned out to be a good move. If we notice in this position, like white's pieces are pretty well placed. Rook on b1, two bishops, queen, they're all doing something. This rook was the only rook that wasn't doing anything. And sometimes this is what stronger players look for, especially in blitz, just identifying a worse placed piece and then just finding a better square for it. A move like rook d1 doesn't require too much calculation, it just requires kind of the right thought process and identifying the piece you want to improve. So rook d1, and then that opened up tactics, or he had no time to take back on c5. And then the finale of the game. Yeah, rook's on the 7th. Very deadly. Okay, it is almost time to finish. Does anyone have any questions about games we played or any quick questions you want to ask me? Anyone? I think we're going to end it there. Almost 7:30. Thanks for watching. Reminder again, send in your games to this email address. And we will hopefully be back with viewers' games to analyze and not have to play people online.